Okay, so in getting started today, we're going to begin by looking at Chapter 14 and talking a little bit about last time. So Exam 3 just posted. The results on it were way better than Exam 2, so good job, guys. Something you were doing was better than Exam 2. There were 65 total questions, and I threw out 9 of them, so that left a total of 56 questions. So one of the students in here was pointing out to me that I calculated the grade a little differently than I had before. I added 9 points to everybody's raw score instead of reducing the number of points down to 56 questions. So I'm not sure which way gives you a better grade, but I'll go back and look at it, and if the way I was doing it before gives you a better grade, then I'll fix it, and if the way I'm doing it now gives you a better grade, then I'll leave it alone. So the final exam is chapters 14, 15, 16 in the Computer-Based Testing Center during finals day. So we have that one day when we're supposed to meet for our finals, but we won't meet at that 4:45 time. I'll have it open most of the day during that finals day. Yes?
Is it for sure to cover those chapters?
We were just talking about that. It might have said that it was cumulative, but I think what I'm going to do is that I'm going to make it just over those, and then take the best out of 3. So if you're happy with your grade, you don't have to take the final. If you're not happy with your grade, you can take the final, and if your grade improves, I'll improve it. If it doesn't, I'll throw it out. So best out of 3?
Okay.
Is that not what it says?
Well, just real quick, it does, for me, it still shows up as
Right, because I took whatever your raw score was and I added 9 points to it. So like if you got 40, then I gave you a 49 out of 65. So I'm not sure which way figures out better, but I'll put it on my to-do list to see which one works the best. Give you the better of the scores. So if any of you have any other issues about exams, remember that during final exams, if you missed any of the exams, that's when you can do makeups, but I'll have to schedule it with you because I can't schedule them at any time in the Computer-Based Testing Center. So we'll need to figure those out, and about the final, whether you take it or not. So I have a little bit of tinkering to do to figure out which way works the best. I also will open up a couple of homework assignments for 14, 15, and 16 so that you can make up some of the points if you missed any of the assignments. And I will figure out some way to get you guys 2 more quizzes so that we have 3 within that time. So what I was thinking about doing was something along the lines of you like showing me your notes from the last couple of classes. Like if you're here in class and you take notes, take a picture of them, upload them to the Dropbox, and I'll give you quiz points for that. And if you watch it online, then you can submit your notes, and I'll give you quiz points for that. So what I really want to see is everybody engaged with the material during the final part. I think so. That's what I had been kind of tinkering with. Does that sound fair? Are you guys cool with taking notes and uploading them to Dropbox? So you don't really take. Well, I also don't want you to miss what I'm saying because you're so busy writing the notes. So
You usually emphasize on what you really want, like us to pay attention to. Like I caught on to that in the beginning. You usually stay on that topic for a little bit longer, meaning the PowerPoint is up for a little bit longer.
Those little take-home messages that I gave you to use as the study guide, did you guys like having those? Would you feel like if I gave those to you, you could print them out and write on them, and that would be helpful? Then that's what I'll do. I'll print out those. And like highlight them or write your own stuff. Okay, let me figure out the best way to make that work, and I'll get you guys some points for the stuff that you're doing anyways. So I just want to emphasize that the more you come to class, the better you take your notes, the better that you're going to do. So for those of you that have been coming all along, I think that's fantastic, and we can kind of see what we can pull out during the end. And I think this is the part that you guys will like the best, because this is the ecology stuff. This is like the tree hugger stuff that everybody really likes to do. So this last part is usually students' favorite material and the stuff that they do the best on. So I will figure that out. I'll go back and review what I just said on the video, and I will figure out what I just said. Is that cool? Is everybody cool with that? Okay. So as we move into chapter 14 and talk about population ecology, so far when we've talked about cells, we've talked about DNA, we've talked about chromosomes, we're all talking about things that are within the individual. But when we look at population ecology, we look at the way individuals interact with one another. So the DNA and the chromosomes and the cells of one flamingo don't really matter in the overall population. It's how the population works together. So we're going to be looking at patterns and population growth. If you've already done your lab for the week, then you've had a hardcore introduction into population ecology, especially with humans. So you'll get to look at that pretty closely. So when we look at population ecology, we study how populations interact with one another, how they interact with members of their own species or members of other species. We look at how they interact with their environment, and we look at how the ecology of this environment is going to work together to provide either a hospitable environment or an inhospitable or difficult to survive environment. So what is ecology? What you see here in this picture, and I believe is the example that's given in your book, this is a fisherman who's out in the Gulf in Maine, and he's collecting lobsters in a trap. And so if we think about one fisherman out there collecting lobsters, he's obviously just one guy, not going to make a big dent into the lobster population. But what happens when you get 6,000 boats that are out there all competing for those lobsters? If they take too many of the lobsters, then there's not going to be many the next season, and so then there would be fewer for everyone overall. If they take too few, or we allow them to take too few, then it hurts their bottom line. They're not able to make enough money to be able to survive on that. So in ecology, we're constantly looking at this balance. If I was an ecologist and I was in charge of making regulations about how many lobster you can take out of the bay, I might ask questions like are here along the side, like how many lobsters would you allow each fisherman to take each day or each year? Should you require that certain lobsters be thrown back? Should we throw back the smallest lobsters, or should we throw back the largest lobsters? The largest ones most likely to be able to survive, but also most likely to die. The smallest ones most likely to be eaten by fish, but also most available in their reproductive years. And then do we worry about whether it's a male or a female? Because a male is going to go in and be able to inseminate the eggs of multiple females. And the females, if you take them out, then you take out their eggs. So there's a lot of questions there. Is it best to let the population increase over a number of years, or should it be maintained at its current level? So there's a certain level of lobsters out there in the bay in Maine, and how do we even know what the number would be? Because there's going to be a lot of variation to the environment. They're not all going to live in the deepest places. Some of them are going to live in the shallow places. Some of them are going to be competing against each other. some are going to be taken by predators. And so if we look at these really complex questions, then we start to break it down into these simpler questions like how many lobsters currently live in the water off the coast of Maine. So do I go out and count every single lobster that's out there? Or do I look at a certain number of square feet or square acres? Or how do I count them? Or how do I decide how many I think are out there? And then is it even possible for us to have a clue what that number is? So you can see how figuring this out is such a complex and difficult question. And so as we're looking at the ecology, notice we're looking at individuals. So one lobster in a certain place at a certain time. So this lobster in the bay in Maine during 2014. Then we can look at populations, so groups of individuals that interbreed with one another. So all those lobsters are of the same species and are capable of reproducing with one another. So all of these lobster in the bay in Maine during the year 2014. Then we look at communities. So how do different species interact with one another? Which fish are going to be the predators of lobster? Which fish might be the prey? What is the natural food source of the lobsters? How do things affect how many lobsters there are out there? All in the bay in Maine during 2014. And then finally, we add in the non-living elements. So we've got our lobsters and all of their living friends, along with all of the non-living things like the water pH, the water temperature, the rocks, the tide, the environmental conditions, the things that are not living. So you can see how very quickly we go from lobsters to this, looking at this huge, very complex problem. So having this population perspective is very necessary in ecology. When we are viewing individuals, their DNA, their chromosomes, their cells, it's very different than viewing them as a population of interacting individuals. So population is generally considered the better way to look at these individuals. And so this is not the advertisement for Happy Feet Free. This is looking at all of the chicks in a penguin population. So population ecology examines features that cannot be studied on an individual organism, such as population size. How many members of this population do we have in this specific area at this specific time? We're also looking at things like birth rates and death rates and whether they're migrating to other places or immigrating from other places. So it's a very complex issue. So populations, when we look at them, we're often looking at the way that they're increasing or the way that they're decreasing. So populations can grow very quickly for a while, but not forever. So let's take a population of bacteria that are causing you to get sick, like with strep throat. If you have strep throat, you get these bacteria that invade your tonsils, and they're going to start reproducing. And it's not just one bacteria, it's all of these bacteria together. And they're going to keep increasing and increasing and increasing until they make you very sick, and then you're going to have basically two ways that you can go. Well, three ways you can go. You can either maintain the population of bacteria in your strep throat, you can kill them off with antibiotics, or it kills you. So looking at populations, there's lots of different things and lots of different outcomes of what can happen, but they can't keep growing forever. They don't have unlimited resources. So what Charles Darwin's quote was is, there is no exception to the rule that every organic being naturally increases at so high a rate that if not destroyed, the earth would soon be covered by the progeny of a single pair. So progeny of a single pair basically means that if we have two that are mating together, then if there's no check on them, if they have unlimited food, unlimited resources, unlimited territory, and they can just keep increasing and increasing and increasing, eventually they could cover the earth. And so if you've ever heard of the Darwin Awards, which are basically things that people do that are so stupid that they manage to kill themselves, and if you haven't heard of the Darwin Awards, you should definitely look those up. These are basically saying that that people will keep breeding and breeding and breeding, and we all know this. The number of people have increased so rapidly here on Earth that we're going to get to a point where there can't be any more on Earth because we won't have enough food, we won't have enough resources, and so the Darwin Awards are basically how do people do things that are so stupid they kill themselves off. Yes?